Hey guys, welcome to Flowcast, a podcast by Flowed where we chat with successful entrepreneurs, freelancers, and other amazing professionals that are crushing in their game. I am Peter, and I'll be your host on this audio journey. In this week's episode, we'll talk with Romina Kavcic, one of the biggest names in the world of design systems and strategy. We will get to know Romina, who is going to share her views on different topics relating to design and other aspects of business. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. Romina, once again, welcome to our podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me.
And to kick this episode off, tell us a bit about your background and your journey coming to this point you are right now.
Yeah, so I started as a designer around 15 years ago. And actually, when I was in the end of my gymnasium, first I wanted to apply to become a teacher. But just in that time, me and my brother got a video cam, and I got quickly into this photo manipulation. And I said, okay, let's start with these photo manipulations. And I searched for the closest university, and that in that time it was only graphic technology. So I said, okay, let's try to become something close to design, and then I will see if I like it. And if I don't, I can still become a teacher. But I quickly became obsessed with design and with all this aesthetics. So I also got my first, let's say, quite real job in the first year of college. And they were this company was quite futuristic because they already did a lot of digital stuff. And in that time also these mobile apps for these feature phones. So it was a lot of growing, and after finishing my degree and becoming a designer, I also decided to pursue MBA studies. So it was not just design, but I'm always trying to connect business and design because I think that companies should always have this in mind, that you're not doing design just per se because you want things to look good, but you need to have business goals in your mind at all times.
Okay, and you said that you started working in design in your first year of college, sort of. And did you also pursue a degree in design, or it was something unrelated?
Yeah, it was somehow related. It was graphic technology. So we had a lot of typography, in that time, Flash stuff, but it was not strictly just design, because I could go to visual communications, but yeah, somehow this graphic technology had more technological stuff, which I enjoyed. But on the other hand, the bad side was that we also had a lot of mathematics and technical stuff. Well, I'm thankful at the moment, but in that time it was quite like, why would we learn this?
And were you always passionate about creative things also pre or high school before you discovered
Yeah,
this
all my notebooks had to be really pretty. So if I was writing really bad, I was just rewriting stuff and putting new stuff in.
Got it. And you said that you wanted to be a teacher in the first place, but I just saw recently that you entered the academia, so you kind of became a teacher, right? You are now the guest lecturer
Yeah.
at the University of Ljubljana.
Yeah, everything comes to the start. Yeah, just
Yeah,
last
what
year
was it like?
sorry.
What's like the experience?
Yeah, I mean, I was mentoring and teaching like on online courses for design before. So when I entered the university, I somehow knew what works well, and how I can motivate them, because I'm guest lecturer for interactive design technology. And that means that we somehow combined everything that they are good at. So faculty of social sciences, they are excellent at interviewing, analysis and stuff like that. So we combined that knowledge, and I in the end, they had to do the prototype. So we went through the product market fit, through the testing, through wireframes, creating a prototype, and then in the end they had a pitch, like that was the final presentation. So I was quite surprised that even if the students are not UX designers or designers, the pitch presentations were really great. So it was a real clear evidence, that if you work through the steps from product market, from interviews, then going and analyze all the facts, and then creating wireframes. And of course, the last step is the prototype, that you can do amazing stuff, even if you're not from the field.
Got it. And before we move on to more concrete design questions, I must ask you, what are your thoughts on ChatGPT? Are you already afraid to losing your job?
I think there are still a lot of stuff that ChatGPT cannot do, in a way, like to understand emotions, and also to create something that's unique. I mean, they have a lot of data behind, but I don't know. I mean, of course, it's very helpful in terms of like how to create or schedule an interview, this pre stuff that you can do for user experience. But I don't think that creating a great product is close to, ChatGPT or something that's artificially created in the moment,
And what is it like right now in academia in regards to ChatGPT? Because I see a lot of debate in the news and on the social media that kind of universities are kind of fighting ChatGPT. Are you, as a guest lecturer, encouraging your students to use it to help themselves with it, or are you kind of like encouraging them to do everything by their on their own?
Yeah, they were doing interviews even before this came out. So this would be excellent, because they were doing interviews mostly in English, because it's an international studies. But I would certainly encourage them to use the ChatGPT to have a diversity of questions, to also have a better ideas, and to also question their minds, So how are they thinking about certain product? But I think in this phase, everything would stop, They would get a lot of analysis, and then later on, when they had to do stuff in Figma and create a prototype, ChatGPT is not so helpful,
Okay, yeah, I got it. Okay, and you said you've been a designer for almost 15 years now, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are some big changes that you notice in those years being a designer, like in the design field, like in general?
Yeah, I would say that everything changes, nothing is permanent, even clients come and go. And I would say that also technology changed a lot. Like when I started, there was not a lot of tutorials, so I had to do a lot of trial and error. But right now, if you want to learn about design or anything, actually, you have the internet and you can search, even for free, you can learn a lot of new stuff. So if you're interested, you can just start today. Yeah, that's changed. And like, if I can say for me personally, I would say that I learned in all these 15 years that I have to listen to my gut. When I saw that some clients were not appreciative enough, or like my work, or we couldn't get along, that it's better that you move on. Maybe in the start you're too afraid because you think that you will lose your job or something. But yeah, I think it's important that you listen to yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I also see that like YouTube kind of being like a big university right now. It's like, if you really want to learn something, everything is on the internet practically. It might take a bit longer, but eventually the internet can help you get there.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah, it's important that you learn a lot of, all the time. As
yeah,
designers, I cannot imagine myself that I don't learn new stuff, because then I think in 1 year I would know a lot of new features and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And now with the internet and all this rapid advancement, that's like more important than ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that you've been a designer for 15 years, like what still motivates you? What drives you to be a better designer every year?
Yeah, if I was a I mean, I started as a designer, but now I don't just design.
Okay.
After I got my child, like that was 4 years ago, I think a few things change. You know, you have less time, and also I wanted to give back to community, so I started writing a lot of these blog posts on designstrategy.guide, um, and also to become a better manager. You know, not to just design all the time, because in a way it's quite hard to sit on the whole day. And on the other side, I also wanted to connect with people that are, you know, like with developers, and, you know, that you get knowledge from all these different stuff. So that's why I started working in design systems, because this is actually connecting a lot of different teams, you know, inside of the organization. And it allows you to be creative, not just in Figma, but to somehow have the whole strategy in mind, how to optimize design process and how to be more effective.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to touch on the management and leadership a bit later, but now I want to go about design strategy and design processes. We have a lot of listeners that are like general entrepreneurs or not designer. Could you tell our audience in simple terms what does design strategy mean and how do you implement it?
Yeah, very simply said, I would say that this is just connecting business with design, you know, like in the old days, people were writing strategy like, oh yeah, what we want to become in 1 year, 2 years, or even 5 years, which is like a future right now. But design strategy is actually how that every organization knows what success means for them and how they will measure it, and then also what kind of problems they want to solve, you know, because you can have a lot of ideas, but if you're not good at executing it, you will not succeed. So design strategy is actually just taking all your business goals and putting them in like design world with workshops and with different exercises and also like all the visual stuff that you see. But the important fact is that you have to come back, you know, so it's this continuous feedback loop. So you don't launch something and forget about it, but you keep learning and improving it. And when you grow, you always go back, you know, you never stop this cycle. So iterations are a big part of design strategy.
Okay, got it. And like imagine like a fast growing startup. Like how do you have any tips on like a simple framework how a company should go about creating their design strategy in the early stages where they don't have much customers yet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very important that they know what they want to do, like I mentioned before, so that they start with research with a lots of questions. So, and then they will also compare their competitors, you know, so if you compare what you're doing and what they are doing, why are you better, you know, it can be just one thing, but or you can just simplify the onboarding or simplify metrics, you know, it depends on the product. But yeah, then once you start with that and you put out the prototype, you can see how people are using it, go back to the drawing board, improve stuff, and do another iteration of that. So I don't advise that in the start you spend a lot of time pixel polishing, you know, design, but it's more important that you get feedback from your users. It's even better if you can code the prototype. You know, it depends on which stage you are. If you're a startup, then in Figma it's much faster. But yeah, you know, we always say move fast and break things. But once you see that you are getting some traction, it's important that you polish design, and that once you are going or launching your product, that it's not ugly, because people are visual. And a lot of times I hear that, yeah, if you have baked design, it will work. I think that this era is over, so I think that linear, I don't know if you know the product. It's for developers for managing tasks.
Okay, no, I don't know.
Yeah, because if you compare, we have a lot of task managers, these products like Jira, Asana, ClickUp, many of them. But Linear is mostly focused on developers, and their design is amazing. So even if they are really young startup, I think it's more than 1 year right now, they already are break even. So I don't think that this is just because of the amazing product, but also because their design is amazing, polished, and they really go into details.
Yeah, I definitely agree on this. Like user experience, most of the time, at least for me, user experience is more important than the actual features themselves. So I think that like even with just creating the same product, but with a lot better user experience, you can achieve amazing growth.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of startups in the start, when they start their journey, they think that if they put like 50 features in that, they will be seen as very highly skilled or better than the rest of the competitors, But this is not really true, because you cannot manage so many stuff, and it's really hard to grow then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And also it's harder than fix bugs and to like scale the app and also implement every feature users want. It's better to stick with just 2 or 3 features and then like go from there. And you also said on your website that in terms of design success, numbers don't measure everything. Yeah, they're still important, and you have quite a handful of numbers that you're proud of. So my question is, how do you measure design ROI?
Yeah, so I think that one thing are numbers, of course, like conversion rate and lifetime value. But on the other hand, when you start, like also you can say that for your organization, when you start, you have to put a lot of effort into consistent, let's say, blog posts, or like you are recording podcasts. And then over some time, people start to recognize your visual language. They recognize your writing. You can attract better talent because you're growing, even if it's a bit slower. So these are all, return on investment for your designs. But if we are talking just strictly about e-commerce or mobile apps, of course, when you launch your mobile app, it's important that you track where people drop off, why they drop off, that you ask them what went wrong. And then you just iterate on better user flow and simplify everything. So over time, you can see, and you can see better results and numbers, of course. But it's not just numbers, like I said, but it's also like positive influence that you have over time.
Okay, yeah. So it's more like a holistic approach to measuring ROI to design.
Yeah.
Yeah, you also, in terms of design strategy, you're also running a website called designstrategy.guide. Can you tell me about, can you tell us more about this project?
Yeah, this started when I was on my maternity leave, and I wanted to like share my knowledge and also somehow force myself to write, because I was afraid that I will fall out of the game. So this forced me to research stuff and then have a blog post written, and also think about other ideas how you can optimize the design work. And based on that, I also created these cards. And I mean, I come up with the idea because I wanted to give to my clients something special. So whenever I held the workshop, it was really hard to educate them, in that same moment. So I wanted to give them cards. So after the workshop, they would remember, okay, we did this exercise, or ROI is this you can do, and you can optimize design process with that thing. So it's actually bite-sized lessons that connect my knowledge and also the things that I recommend them to do.
And those are actually physical cards.
Yeah, it's physical. Yeah. I printed them.
Nice. And yeah, can you tell me a bit more about those cards? Like, are they from different design fields, or is like all the cards combined and are one big design strategy?
Yeah, all the cards are combined in one box. And it's actually, you have ideas for what you can measure, like in terms of design metrics, what are the good exercises for the workshops, and all the terms that are connected with our work are explained there with bite-sized lessons. And then some even have like links to external case studies. So yeah, it's I mean, clients said that it's very helpful because a lot of times they have to search around, what I'm talking about. So this is just something more easy to approach, and to digest.
Okay, yeah, got it. Nice. It's a really cool idea. And it's one box is I think it's 35 euros.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. And yeah, and as I can understand, like improving design strategy also mean that going in the existing design of certain brands and then improving it. So how important is to do an actual in-depth audit of the actual state of design before you start improving it? And what is the process like?
I'm sorry, what is the
So how
what was
important it is to do an audit of the actual state of the current design of the companies before you start improving it? And what is your go-to flow to implementing a new design?
Yeah, I think the audit is really important because a lot of times clients think that everything's polished, but when you start with design audit, that actually means that you need to screenshot all the screens in your product, and I also record everything with Loom. So that means that, for example, creating a card, how this works, if we imagine, I don't know, Trello, because we all know it, how this works, or accessing profiles. So each flow you have to record, screenshot, and then my process is that I put everything in Figma. I connect all the dots together, and then I compare like buttons, flows, input fields, text, all the styles, so I can see where are the differences. And then you can see like holistically what's wrong. And then based on that, you can move on and decide how you can improve the product, because sometimes the changes are smaller, but this design audit also helps us create a design system, because you can quickly see which components are used a lot or used in a wrong fashion. So this documentation and design audit then helps you to move forward, even if it's a redesign or if it's a design system or development update, whatever you're doing.
And do you actually, like, when you go revamping design of a company, do you first design a prototype and then talk to customers to be able to iterate your design, or you just like fully design it first and then launch it and see it as it goes?
Yeah, it depends how complex the product is. I certainly wouldn't suggest anyone that if you have a really complex dashboard, that you're working 1 year and then you are just changing everything in overnight. But it's very important. I mean, it's much better that you release changes slowly, so that customers get used to all the changes. But of course, everything depends on the strategy of the company. If this current dashboard works and you're getting a lot of new customers, then it might be also good that you are creating a new one, like synchronized. But you cannot wait for 1 year and not talk to anyone, because you will lose the momentum. And 1 year is a lot in technology space. Everything can change, from technology, from the customers' goals and everything.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, it's better to then go step by step and modify the design incrementally so that the company or the brand can operate normally, and just based on customer feedback, you just improve and improve step by step.
Yeah, exactly. And
And
it's much easier for developers, because otherwise you have to move the database and, it's a lot of complex stuff behind.
yeah, got it. And you've also been working with clients like Outfit7, Chipolo, Tamarin, Databox, Birdbody, and many others, which are like super fast and world-leading startups. And what's like working with world-class startups like them? Like, is it anything different than working with like quote unquote normal clients?
I think what's different is that they know that they have a huge, really good vision, and they are not afraid of moving fast and doing things differently, because if I compare, I would say, Slovenian startups, but not startups. Startups are quite futuristic, they know that design is important and they know the effects of user experience. But if I compare like some older companies that are not used to work iteratively and are not aware of what lean startup is, and that you don't launch things and you forget about them, but if you have to work all the time. I would say that this, for example, Stellar was just a bunch of people who knew that they came there to create something amazing, It's not that you go to your job and when it's 4 o'clock, you go home and you forget about your job. It's like, yeah, we have to do this. And, all the Slovenian companies that I worked with were the same, We gathered because we wanted to make things better than they are. And in terms of visual stuff and also for the user experience, And all these managers that I could work with, which I'm very grateful, always wanted to go one step further, not just one, maybe 10 steps further. And it might be stressful in some ways because you have this responsibility to create something exceptional. But on the other hand, when you go over the cliff, it's like amazing feeling because you did it.
And even though those companies, those startups are very agile, very fast, very rapidly growing, and are also very proactive and know the importance of design. Anyways, what are they still getting wrong when setting up their design processes and teams?
Yeah, I would say that what they are missing, or most of the teams are missing, is the feedback from stakeholders. When you're small or there are less than 10 people, it's very easy to connect, So even at Stellar, let's say, when we were 10, it was really easy. We just gathered, we had a lot of ideas, we went back to our tables and just created something amazing, But when you're growing on one way, the culture is changing. If there's no stakeholder that's actually connecting all the pieces, all the people together and all the pieces. And then slowly they are moving out of this design space and you're lacking a lot of feedback, So if there's no new design manager or somebody that's responsible for getting the feedback from stakeholders to you or to design team or development team. There's, the time between feedback and moving forward is getting longer, so of course you're becoming a lot slower, and the design is not so good anymore. Or also, on the other hand, the product, So you either need to have an excellent product owner or product manager that understands both technically and design-wise what the stakeholders want, or somebody from stakeholders need to decide that they will create with you so this product, to lead the product, Because if you lose someone that has the vision for the product, you lost everything.
So would you also advise companies to start documenting their design processes to avoid losing the vision and all the steps that have been done so far and are in the vision for the future?
I mean, it's really hard to document the vision. You can document, you can have Figma files organized, and of course, with a lot of notes for people when you hand off your design, that developers understand what they need to track, how this work, to add some useful or helpful videos, how animations should be done. This is one thing. But on the other hand, the product owner or the manager or the founder, whoever is responsible for the product, this is like 10 steps further. They need to know what will happen after, 6 months, and this is really hard to document. So the important thing is that you talk with them a lot, and that you translate their vision into your design or to your team that you're leading. So
Okay, got it. And how do you approach building a design system for such company? And before that, what's a design system anyways?
Yeah, so a design system is actually a set of reusable components that allow you to just take one piece and use it in your design files. Or on the other hand, developers could just take the code. But what's important for the design system is that if we're talking about the ideal one, that it's connecting the whole organization. So you're having all the assets in one place, the documentation in one place, the design principles like writing styles, everything is there. And if you do that correctly, or everything's done as it should be, it allows you that you prototype much faster. So that means that you can go to the market much faster. And I also think that the team productivity is much higher because in a way you have a lot of these reusable components, and you have more time to think and to have to do the important tasks. And developers have this relaxed state that a lot of stuff already works and it's stable. So a lot of processes are, of course, more efficient. And not to mention, of course, the consistency on all the levels. So how do you approach to do that? I'm not talking that every company should have this custom design system, but there are a lot of steps in between. You can start by having an organized Figma UI kit, but once you do that, you can move your stuff to third-party tools. There are a lot of them. I think that one of the most popular ones is still Zero Height. Then we have new players like Supernova, Specify, Backlight, also Knapsack. And then these tools allows you that you can connect your Figma file. And on the other hand, developers can come on board and create their code for this stuff. So even if you're a manager or somebody that just came to the company, can just go to this, let's say, design system site, the documentation site, and you can see everything that's there and just take it. And of course, this, again, the onboarding process is much faster than
And do you think there's like a perfect time to start implementing the design system? Because the creating a design system definitely pays dividend in the long run. But you're like a newly founded company that's not even on the market yet, also invest time in creating a design system?
No, they should just focus on having, like I mentioned, reusable components in Figma so that you have components with variants. Then the main focus is that you create prototypes and you get people on testing, get the feedback fast, go back to the drawing board, create new mock-up or create new prototypes, test a lot of different designs, test a lot of different user experience, different flows. And after that, you can go one step further, because it doesn't make sense that you invest a lot of time and money to the design system, because in the end, you will probably end up with a bit different product that you had in mind in the start. But what is really practical, I would say, is the Tokens Studio plugin. It's a plugin that allows you to be much faster when you want to change some styles. I mean, of course, Figma has their own native styles, but a lot of stuff like spacing and other stuff that you want to export for developers is not so easy. So this tool allows you to export the JSON file for all your design decisions. And it also allows you to connect with your GitHub repository so you can be much faster, So this might be one solution for the newly created startups. But the important thing is to solve the user experience first and then focus on design stuff.
Okay, so solving the user experience first and then like focusing on this. Okay, we talked about design system and design strategy, but now I want to ask you, how do you approach running and setting up a design team? So how do you manage your design, your team of designer?
Yeah, I would say that in the start, like 8 years ago, I made a lot of mistakes because I was looking for a mini me,
Okay.
somebody that thinks and does the same way as me, not the style wise. I of course know that people do different design, but they are so enthusiastic about design and so hardworking as I was. So this was of course mistake. So right now my process is that first, when you hire someone, it depends on how skilled they are, but actually you have to give them opportunity to learn. So you teach them your process, how you do stuff, where you find stuff. So somehow they see your thinking. And then the second one is that you give them the chance to create on their own terms, but in the end, you still decide what's good and what will go, to the client. Then third would be that you give them all the freedom that they can also provide ideas, lead the project, and design it. And then the fourth step is that they have complete freedom, that they can also talk to the client because they know the whole process already. And yeah, I realize that if you go step by step, that people in the end are more self-confident than if you would just say to them, yeah, do that, however you want, and I'm not here to support you, This support is really important, So just asking them, how can I help you? And but leaving them alone, to create their own design, because you cannot expect that they will do it in the same way as you want to do it.
So to achieve high productivity and great work from your team, you kind of also promotes like self-engagement and not micromanagement, right?
Yeah, exactly. Micromanagement, I don't like. I also don't like if somebody does it on me, because I think that you have to hire someone that you trust, and if you don't trust them, don't hire them, because then you will always have in mind, oh my God, they're probably not working right now, this doesn't lead anywhere.
Yeah, I also see this like a big problem with founders and managers that they don't trust their employees or their teammates, like not even with like the tiniest tasks, and that can be really demotivating. I think that can be also the most demotivating thing in the work environment.
Yeah, exactly. And then instead of having someone that's really creative, you are getting someone that will just do whatever you want him to do. And, I remember one poster, it said that as a designer, I mean, you are a designer, not a fucking screwdriver.
Nice. And how do you think like yourself being also a very experienced designer and not just like a leader? Like, and also you did an MBA. How do all those experience together help you be a better leader?
Yeah, I think that it helps you to see the things from different sides. It's not just we're not designers just to do the mock-ups and to have like million ideas and million colors and just that clients pick whatever they like, but that I can combine, like I mentioned before, business goals and of course all the vision, and also somehow understand their language, because they speak in numbers and money, and we have a lot of ideas that we would like to pursue, so that you can have the ability to combine both of them. But I certainly wouldn't advise that every designer becomes a manager, because some just enjoy more doing stuff and creating in Figma or whatever than managing stuff, because then you lose this ability. And I try to do both, and it's really hard. Imagine that half of the day you have to be really creative and relaxed, and then half of the day you're just doing bureaucracy and talking with people. So it exhausts you.
Yeah, it's kind of a paradox. Like the more successful you get in your thing, like the thing you start initially, the less you do it, the more you do just the meetings and stuff like that. When you move up the ranks or open a company or start your agency or become an executive or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of companies still think that meetings are the only way where we can exchange ideas. I mean, if you're a remote company, this is really important, of course, that you meet regularly. But there are a lot of ways that you can show your design, like Loom, and you can record and annotate stuff. You can be quite active on Slack, but still, I turn off Slack in some hours, because I think that, if you have deep work and then somebody's messaging you all the time, it's really hard to do something productive. So I think that each person needs to know when they're the most, like they have the most idea or they're the most productive, and then the rest of the day they can do all the communication stuff.
Yeah, I agree. We at Float, we use Loom a lot and also Slack, and I think this is so much better than being in office, having meeting all the times, being on video conferences, because it like those meetings, they can like really disrupt your workflow. But
Yeah,
I also think that being remote all the time and just using Loom and Slack and all those async tools also have some challenges. And so my question for you is like, what are some challenges about like being a leader in a remote environment?
yeah, I think it's very beneficial if you can also meet in person from time to time. But yeah, I worked in different environments, like from Scandinavian people, Swiss people, and then US, UK, and what was different is the culture. And when I started working with these clients, I was joking a lot, of course. And sometimes people were really offended, like, what is she talking about? But when they met me in person, they were like, okay, now I understand, you were just joking. But on the other hand, like in US, when I was in person, one time they approached me and they told me, like, you're never so excited about things, because Americans are always like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And I'm
Yeah.
not like that. I mean, I'm a very cheerful person, but I'm not like that. And I told them, yeah, but I'm really happy. Yeah, you're not showing that. So the important thing is that they also know you, as a person, and that you can understand their culture in a way to communicate more effectively.
Yeah, I got it. And you also saw this kind of like a pattern if, like, for example, the US companies are also more active on Slack than, I don't know, Scandinavian companies, or just did you notice this just like in physical world?
No, it just depends on the manager or the team. It's actually more important that you, as a person that needs something, or either a designer or marketing or developer, that you know that you can reach out. Like 10 years ago, I was too afraid to ask, I don't find a document, or can I ask again how this works. Um, so you should just ask if you don't know, and be proactive with providing the feedback, what you're doing, what's next on your plate, and stuff like that. And then things just work out. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I agree. And you mentioning that you were afraid to ask stuff 10 years ago is also a great segue to my last question of this podcast episode. So what advice would you give to your younger self when you were still in high school with all the knowledge you have now?
Yeah, I would say that you shouldn't worry about everything, because sometimes when I got a new project, especially some, like you mentioned, big names, I was afraid that I will never find the idea, or I will never make an amazing design again. So I worried. I mean, of course, I got to work, but sometimes I was just worried. So yeah, I still am sometimes, yeah, but it's important that you pause and relax a bit, and then reflect what you did good or what you did bad, of course. Just be aware of that and take the responsibility, and then go on. You can go slow, but yeah, just that you move on.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. I said this to myself all the time, but not so successful at it yet, but working on it. But to finish off, we have this series of 5 burst questions in the end of each episode. So I'm just going to ask you 5 questions, really generic questions that you can just answer with one word. Okay? All right. So what's your favorite book?
I don't have a favorite book. I have a series of books.
Okay, what's your favorite series of book?
I mean, I would advise anyone that's in design to read like Lean UIX and Lean Startup. And then what I also like is the Rich Dad Poor Dad and Blue Ocean Strategy.
All right. And what's your favorite podcast?
Design Matters.
And favorite productivity tool?
Productivity tool is Evernote, yeah.
Most used app on the phone?
Evernote.
And your favorite hobby?
I would say cycling and then skiing, yeah.
That's Slovenian national sport.
Yeah, so
Nice.
typical.
Yeah, really typical. So thank you, Romina, for everything. It was great chatting with you, and hope to talk with you again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Peter.